So like, let's talk about, right, this is where we can get into the microanalysis, but is that obese person who lost 100 pounds by doing that, do I really care about maybe a small alteration to their gut microbiome? No, because their gut microbiome is actually much more healthy now by them having lost all that excess adipose tissue. So again, the ranking of what I'm worried about, can change depending on the specific situation. Now, let's take somebody like me who's lean and doesn't really have, any health problems that I'm aware of. What about artificial sweeteners for me? Well, for me, I kind of got using them because of bodybuilding contest prep, because it was about the only appetite suppressant that worked for me. But do I think that they are healthful? Probably not. Do I think they're unhealthy? I would say based on the current data, I don't think that they're unhealthy. Now, the information on blood glucose. So there's some of the problems with some of these meta-analyses or these reviews is they kind of lump all the non-nutritive sweeteners together. And then they may say, well, there's no effect on this or there's an effect on this. Well, the problem is these probably are these are different molecules and they can interact differently. Aspartame very clearly seems to have no effect on blood sugar or insulin. That has been repeatedly shown. Stevia doesn't appear to have much effect. Saccharin and sucralose, the jury is kind of mixed. Now, there was the study that we first connected on, which I think their primary outcome measure was actually they were looking at like kind of the sweet taste, like how it affected sweet taste. So what they did was the group that was getting the sucralose was also paired with maltodextrin. The control group was getting sucrose, which is an appropriate way to compare the sweet taste because maltodextrin is not as sweet as sucrose. So when you're trying to combine, sucralose, which is already sweet, with another form of carbohydrate, you'd want something less sweet compared to your control. But for the outcome measure of insulin and blood glucose, probably not as appropriate because we know maltodextrin has a much higher glycemic index than sucrose.
Right. So they appropriately controlled for taste, but not for the effect of the sweeteners. And I think that was a key component. And I think, the part of that study that intrigued me actually was in a talk version of that, because that study drove me to watch a talk that, and we'll get Dana Small on the podcast at some point, hopefully, was that they had kids do this study. And they actually had to cease the study because a couple of the kids became pre-diabetic. I mean, it seemed like there was something hazardous about, this was at Yale School of Medicine. It's a good place. I mean, there's a range everywhere, but it just seemed like there's something about sweet taste that if taken to the extreme might be able to impact blood sugar. This has impacted my sort of behavior I try to avoid really sweet things. Mm-hmm. Unless they're exceptionally delicious or the occasion calls for them, because I do think that it increases my craving for sweet things.
Well, it might not be necessarily a craving, but it just programs you. So your taste buds are extremely adaptable. So take, for example, like Indian food. If you bring like Indian people over to America and have them eat some of our food, they think it tastes extremely bland. Because they are used to such spicy food that unless they have a certain level of spice, they hardly even taste it. If you've ever done a high sodium diet and then gone to a low sodium diet, it feels very bland.
That's like styrofoam.
But your over time, your taste buds adjust. So sweet is the same thing. If you're used to eating a lot of sweet, you get kind of desensitized to it. And then if you go to something less sweet, it can kind of taste bland at first. Over time, it'll get better. But so I think it's one of those things that, again, it depends on the situation, right? Like if somebody's obese and they said, well, this is going to help me, eliminate sugar sweetened beverage. Like, why would you want to take that tool away from them? Like that's a great lever to pull. I mean, if somebody can lose literally 100 pounds from just one change in lifestyle, that's not even really that inconvenient of a change. That is powerful. But again, is it the most healthy thing they could do? And I think that's kind of like what tends to get asked. We don't know. Is it healthier than water? Probably not. Maybe as healthy as it. Who knows? Now, but I really make all those caveats because you don't want to have people who could use this as a tool think, well, no, I can't do this because it's actually bad for me.
Right.
If it helps you lose 50 pounds or 75 pounds or whatever it is, trust me, it's not bad for you, right?